Hi, my name is Mark Goodacre, sitting in my office at Duke University and reflecting on the historical Jesus. Wondering, would it be fair to say now that the third quest of the historical Jesus is officially over? I first remember hearing the term the third quest in a lecture that Tom Wright, N.T. Wright, gave when I was an undergrad student in Oxford back in 1986. And he used the term to talk about Jesus research that focused on Jesus as a Jew and that focused on apocalyptic eschatology. And this was the era where E.P. Sanders's Jesus and Judaism had just come out, and he was another teacher of mine in Oxford in the mid 1980s. And not long before that, in 1973, we'd had Geza Vermesh's Jesus the Jew. In fact, another teacher of mine from back in that era, although not in the 70s, much later on in the 80s and early 90s. But the idea of the third quest can actually sound now like it's a bit of a truism to talk about Jesus as a Jew. It's amazing to think that that was headline news in the 1970s and 80s, but it was quite right to draw attention to the extent to which researching Jesus' Jewish context helps us to understand the historical Jesus. But the difficulty with the term the third quest is that it quickly began to break down in a range of ways because, for one thing, there were lots of Jesus scholars in this same era, typified by John Dominic Crossan, by the Jesus Seminar, who really didn't have that same focus on Jesus's apocalyptic eschatology. And Tom Wright was quite aware of that. And so he said that at the same time as the third quest, there was a renewed new quest. And I must admit, when you start getting to that kind of terminology, you do actually have to start saying, well, is there something wrong? And what then began to happen was people just talked about the third quest as meaning any historical Jesus questing. For me, the real end of the third quest, though, was marked by an article by Dale Allison, in which he pointed out that for there to be a third quest, there really has to have been a first and a second quest. And to get into that, you have to hypothesize there was a period of no quest, roughly from like the 1910s to the 1950s. And it's kind of a nonsense because there were loads and loads of historical Jesus works coming out at that time. So I think it is time to get rid of the term the third quest and just talk about the best Jesus scholarship from any era. And if we want to know what the future of historical Jesus scholarship might look like, well, might I recommend this book, The Next Quest of the Historical Jesus, which is edited by Chris Keith and by James Crossley, and I've got a piece in there, but so have several other people. Oh my goodness, it's an excellent volume, strongly recommended.